Hey guys, Phil Botmart here. So for today's video, I'm calling this the EDC Art Deco knife, or Art Deco EDC knife. So a customer that I've made a couple knives for was looking for an EDC knife, and he sent me some photos of like Art Deco designs, like cars, even a lawnmower, to kind of be the inspiration for the lines of this knife. So through a series of drawings, you know, kind of went back and forth with a design idea, and so this right here is what we settled on. So I don't really know how particularly Art Deco it is, but this is just sort of what we're calling the knife. This is the design he wants. So really specific, as you can tell, you know, a lot of, you know, rejected sketches there. So to come up with something this specific, kind of the best thing to do would be to do a stock removal knife. But rather than order up the steel and wait for it to come in and all that, I think what I'm going to do is just take a coil spring and at least forge it down to a piece of flat stock, more or less, and I'll see if I can forge in a little bit of shape in there, and then what I can't forge in, I'll obviously shape on the grinder. So you've seen me cut off pieces of coil spring enough now, so we'll just cut to me flatten out the piece of coil spring. Okay, so this end here that I kind of am tapering out, I think that'll be the point. So just to get that taper going before I flatten it all out, and that'll be our the end of our tang. And so it's the way that chisel cut is. When we flatten that, we'll see how that shape looks. So. So I'm trying to get the extra widening in the blade. I'm using the cross peen with my 4-pound hammer here, and it seems to actually be doing a pretty good job. So you can see the kind of widened area in there, tapers down to the rest of the handle. So to me anyways, I can see that shape kind of coming to life. So that's not too shabby, but we'll see what happens. So it's a 3-pound hammer here. I'm just trying to get out the big hammer marks from that other cross peen. I feel like we're getting pretty close with the shape there, and the size seems to be about right, so I'm pretty happy with that. We'll go back on the start working on the tang a little bit more now. Okay, so I think I'm going to call it a day on forging this out. I don't want to risk what I've gained. So if we take a look at the drawing there, you can see it kind of singed it a bit. But the basic shape, the basic lines are in there. And so I'll thin it down in here with the grinder and a bit up here. But that basic shape is still there. Same with the pommel area. But it looks like it's, size-wise, it's the right size. So it's just a matter of maybe removing a little material around the tang. But the blade is nice and thin. I thin that out about as much as I want to go. Any more, I'm going to risk melting it. So I think we'll call that good. The tang, as you can see, is still pretty thick. So I'll be grinding off a lot of that. But to me, this is a pretty big win because I got a decent forge to shape knife from my sketch. And so rather than just doing an entire stock removal knife, I got a little bit of you know, stock removal to do, and we'll have some that's pretty close to my original idea. So I'm gonna put this back in the forge and get this annealed, and then we can start grinding it. Okay, so I got my handle slabs kind of roughed in. This is hickory. It's Michigan grown hickory wood. And so for the knife tang itself, I'm going to end up doing a gold wire inlay. So I wanted to sketch that out before I drilled the handle pins. So that's where they need to go. So we'll draw out the knife first, and then we'll drill out the wooden scales. So I got the tang of the knife pretty well flush, and so what I'm going to do now is make some handle liners. And so the customer was looking for copper to be integrated into this knife somehow. So we came up with the idea of doing a copper liner. So we'll have 2 layers of copper, or layer of copper on each side, and then the wood handles. And so I've got just enough of this thin stuff to fit both knife handles on there. So I'm going to cut these out, and we'll drill the holes, and I'll grind them to shape. Okay, so we got a nice little knife sandwich going on here, and so I'm going to try to keep this all clamped up together, and we're going to grind down the wood and copper and get it to get flush with the steel. Okay, so I've got the handle slabs sanded down and fit up with the copper. I trimmed down the area up in here, and so the next thing that I'm going to do is add some inlay into the handle slabs. So the customer was looking for braided gold wire inlaid into these handles. So I have got a couple of sketches here. He was kind of looking at the French scroll work, but what we ended up deciding on doing is just the simplest one here, because of how thin these handles get. Even this, I'm a little bit leery about how I'm gonna be able to do it. So I traced out the handles and did a little practice drawing there. So that's what I'm gonna be going for. And so I've got my gold wire. This is actual 14 karat gold wire. This is 28 gauge, 2 1-foot sections, and so it's pretty thin stuff. So now the next thing to do is braid it together and see how much I got from doing some mock-ups with some steel wire I had laying around. This should be enough, but we're going to see what we get, and I got to, try not to break it and all that. But this is soft gold, full soft, so hopefully it won't break, but I guess we'll see what happens. So even this small little bit was like 50 bucks, so the last thing I want to do is screw it up. So when I bought it, they made it sound like it'd be 2 pieces of 1-foot stuff. They just gave me 2 feet altogether. Got this stuff clamped up. Alright, there we go. Okay, so center point. There's the center point. We got about 12 inches to here. A little on each end. Alright. There we go. It seems like it's got a little bit of a bounce to it, a little bit of rebound. It looks like I should have enough wire, luckily, so I can do kind of some maybe tighter curves here, curls around the handle pins. Okay, so maybe something like this. So I like the way that one is. It's up here. I'll obviously trim off those tails there, but maybe I'll do a double curl here at the end. The good news is that I've got enough wire. So cool. All right, well, maybe we'll give this a shot carving it out. See what happens. Okay, so you can see that we're getting there. It is working. So I just gotta deepen it out over here. Okay, so this is a pretty good angle for seeing that that gleam of gold. So I've got it in there pretty good. Yeah, it's all gonna fit. I just gotta trim it down just a smidge. Alright, so looks like I have this. I mean, I got it all lined up. Still wants to pop out of there. It always intended on gluing it for the final final fit. So I think I might have to do that to get it to stay. Yeah, because she just wants to pop out of there. But all right, we'll call it good on this one, and now we got that second one to do. Since I went to all the trouble of carving this one out, I'm going to try to use it as a mold and maybe make this one a little bit easier. Maybe make it more symmetrical as well. That's always the trick. Alright, there we go. Not bad. Alright, so now we'll just carve this one out. So I put a coat of stain on my handles here, and I'm going to try to epoxy the gold into these, and we'll see how that goes. So my plan, this is 4-minute clear epoxy. So we're going to get it on the handles, make a big mess. I'll have to clean it all off. Later, once it dries, I'll sand it all off. Wait about 3 or 4 minutes, and then before the glue sets, I'll get the wire in there, and that way it won't pop out, because as you saw earlier, the wire was wanting to pop out all the time. Okay, so we got that mixed up. So I really only need it in my carvings here, but this is basically a sacrificial layer of stain, but I wanted to make sure that I got it into the cracks, because I didn't want any white wood showing. Alright, so the gloves I sort of threw on for, turning the camera on and off for adjusting focus, because I really wanted to protect that. But right now they are sort of a detriment to keeping this wire in, because it's sticking to the gloves. Oh, that's perfect. So we are gonna, yeah, keeps wanting to pop out. Alright, great. Got that going for me. Anytime I apply pressure here, it makes the other end sort of jump out. So this one is already starting to get viscous here. Sort of twisting my wire up, twisting my shape up, pulling it out of shape. Alright, well, here's what the handle's looking like after the glue is dried. I ended up taping them down with some Gorilla Glue. And so peeling that off, you know, pretty strenuous on it, so seems to have held. It's sticking up in a couple places, notably here on this end. I'll trim that down and we'll sand this down and see what we got. I gotta be careful because I don't want to, some of these spots where it's sticking up proud, I don't want to risk sanding down all my gold. That's some residual tape that's stuck on there with the glue and all that. So we'll get all that down off of there. Basically, I'm looking to get all the glue off of there, and once I actually, you know, epoxy the knife on there, yeah, you can see that kind of bent off. Okay, so we got some pesky spots of glue. So I am going to try my work sharper one to see. Okay, so I had a little bit come up right there. What I was worried about happening did happen. But other than that, I think we're in good shape. Okay, so I did a test fit of the knife, so here's how she's looking. I'm pretty happy with all that. So I'm thinking that we're going to leave the blade itself actually dark. I don't want to have the polish on there, which kind of adds a problem of I got to basically make sure the fit up is all correct before I heat treat it, and I'd like to do that today. We got a little bit of handle material sticking up right here at this end, so I got to grind that down, and I really got to make sure that these liners, there aren't any spots sticking up or sharp bits or anything like that. So I basically got to kind of clean up this whole end here. I've got the rivet pins recessed because I'm going to actually put some mother of pearl dots, like guitar dots, over the pins, but they are going to just hold it in there while I kind of do a final fit up. Okay, we took a little bit of tip damage there. So the question is what to do about that bend. here's what our blade's looking like. Put a nice polish on this with the Tri-Zac belt. I oil it down with WD-40 just to try to keep fingerprints from getting rusted on there or anything like that. And then I kind of polished off some of this fire scale on here. So I'm going to tape up this blade to protect it, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue my copper handle slabs on here. We're going to kind of do this as like a two-part epoxy job. We're going to put the copper liners on first with the pins, and then I'll put the wood scales on because I don't want to risk screwing anything up. And so from the grinding, I was able to, that little warp was just the very end, so I lost a bit of the tip, but the blade is back to being straight and true. So I'm happy about that. A little nervous. So at this stage in the game, I'm just trying not to screw it up, and that's always my big fear. So so far, I'm really happy with the way the blade has come out. It's super thin. As long as I don't drop it, or something goes wrong with the application of the handles, we'll be in good shape. So there's still a lot that can go wrong, but let's get to it. All right, one side on. I want to kind of have an even side, even amount of pins sticking out on either end. But here we go. Boom. And I took my little clamps here and I put some leather on there to kind of soften the clamping. That's really for when I use this on the wood, but it's not going to hurt anything on the copper here. It just sort of helps to keep any big indents from forming. So I got the knife all cleaned up. I'm going to take this one handle at a time, so I'm going to glue this side on first. So I got that right here, and so per the customer's request, I'm going to do a dot of mother of pearl over the handle pins. So I'm going to see if I can inset that right now, so that when I glue it in, it'll have epoxy from the inside. I don't have to worry about trying to apply it to the outside, because I can't sand this down because of the gold in there. So that seemed to work pretty good. I got the right size drill bit that fits these dots, and so these are little guitar dots from Bitterroot Guitars. This is actually a Michigan-based company. So all I do is I just take the dot, just lay it on the sandpaper. This is 320 grit, and I just polish it down. Okay, there we go. So we got that in there. It don't look too bad now, does it? And we're just gonna make sure this is good and polished. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I get just a bit of epoxy in the pins. I don't want to overdo it because I don't want to pop them out. Gotta have epoxy in there. So I did some light little holes, nothing too deep. This handle material is pretty thin, and I didn't want to risk going through it, so just a thin layer over all this. So it's kind of leaking out. It did come out the holes with the mother of pearl, but I'm just going to wipe that in, kind of fade that in with the gold. We'll get our padded clamps. Okay, there we go. All right, well, we got a successful application of the handle slab, so that's looking pretty good. So we'll probably clean up these edges here a little bit. I got some glue there, that second scale. Alright, there we go. For better or worse, we're all glued up. Okay, here we are. Feels like I'm in the home stretch here. I'm real happy with the way this is looking, so probably try to clean up some of this glue on the edges, apply a little more stain. I got a little bit of glue that ended up on the handle here, so I gotta clean that off. But the blade is going to be ready to be sharpened here. And I think what I'd also like to do is apply a protective coat of Krylon once I've finished staining all this. So. Okay, well, here's what the knife's looking like. I took the tape off the blade there, so I'll probably have to get some oil and clean off the tape residue. But it's time to put that the edge on there, and so it's actually already pretty sharp to about there, just from the grinding. So I'm just going to use the work sharp because I'm kind of worried about taking off too much material on the big grinder there. So we'll see if we can kind of put in our edge bevel. Well, there we go. That's what I'm looking for as far as shaving sharp goes. Alright, here's what the finished knife is looking like. Really happy with the way this one turned out. I know I always say that, but I really am proud of this one. Just a lot of elements all came together, and I think this was a successful knife. So this is one that I don't want to say I lost a lot of sleep over, but I did spend a lot of time thinking about it. For every step of the process that I showed you, I probably did it in my head, 20 times. Each individual step, from the forging to the gluing everything together. So this was definitely a challenge for me, and pushed me as a knife maker, held me to a high standard. This is a knife that in 1,000 years I would never think to make, but because it was a custom build, it pushed me in directions I'd never thought of going. So because of how thick the spine is and all the weight back here, it's a handle heavy knife, which I haven't really done too many of, but because of that, it just feels real good in the hand. Hopefully the customer really enjoys this and enjoys using it. So we always intended this to be kind of like a scalpel. With this one, I can kind of pick a hair, like let's say this one, and it's like, well, I want that one gone. There it goes. Let's see. I don't know how well it's showing up on camera, but here's one here. This one here, gone. So yeah, real sharp knife. So with our plans of this being an EDC knife, this is the scabbard that I came up with. Basically, it's set up for a horizontal belt carry kind of appendix on the left side for a right-handed cross draw. Real snug fit on this one. I did a coating of acrylic Resolene. Put the brass rivets in there to kind of bolster up the corners, secure the corners. And this one right here just really tightened it all up. Almost too tight, but I knew the leather would kind of break in. So took the burnishing well. Did some wet molding around the handle there. So really happy with the way that one came out. So this carries nice. And the last thing I wanted was to have a knife that, with all this gold inlay and all that fell out and got lost. So that's kind of that's about the last thing I wanted to have happen. So from our talks, customer compared it to kind of a Napoleonic War era knife. Said it had a French look about it. Somehow got talking about Master and Commander. So all right, well, I appreciate you guys coming along with me on this little build video. Hopefully it was interesting to see kind of just how the final product developed from an idea to the final actuality. So if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram and keep up with my latest and greatest work. But as always, thank you so much for the support. I appreciate you watching. And until next time, be more Viking.